Hello, beloved possums. It's very chilly here. It's Monday morning in Australia. So there's so much to deal with. It's hard. I call it triaging horrors. That was the expression I used with Mary Trump. And I think that's what our lives have become, really. So very cold here where I am this morning. Like it fell off the radar. We're all in shock, really. Okay. So I want to get into some of the contradictory sort of court rulings that are happening, and Walmart and the Yeti, who is being wheeled around the Middle East, rearranging the world. Now that he's claimed that he rules it, he's playing with the world. So hard to know where to start. Let's bite the bullet. Now, Walmart. So obviously, there were showdowns in the Oval Office between the head honchos of Walmart and the orangutan wranglers who live in the Oval Office. Now, I think Walmart's decided, well, they've announced they are rerouting trade supplies away from the US. Not good for workers in North Carolina and other states who. And this is global capitalism for you. They've done the math and they've worked out we can pay poverty wages in Vietnam and India and Mexico and still pay the tariffs and be ahead than paying real wages. So don't think for 1 minute I'm sitting here in sympathy with an epic giant like Walmart. Well, this triggered the Yeti. His phrase back to them was, eat the tariffs. Eat the tariffs. Well, some people will have to be eating the tariffs because the shelves will be bare. So I really, really, really want to look at this showdown because Harley Davidson's gone. No one seems to be talking about Boeing, but it's moved offshore or in the process of it. Ford, look, all the iconic sort of American things, which just shows greed in every way on both sides of the fence, whether you're talking about the Yeti or big capital. Greed always wins. So let's have a look. The Yeti and Walmart. The Yeti and Walmart. Let's have a look. Oh, big. This is big. I've only pulled one card and it's epic. Oh my God. All right, oof, off and running. I think I heard or saw somewhere that 90% of Americans are within a 10-minute drive or train or something from Walmart. Could that be true? Surely not. In Montana and places, I suppose if you average it out, I don't know, but it's iconic. Right, here we have the Wheel of Fortune. It's like, I'm glad I was talking big about capitalism and not just Walmart because this is big. This is absolutely big. This is a turning point, literally, because obviously, with Walmart being the go-to for so many Americans, it impacts. Now, people are going to be on one side or the other. Those who get where Walmart's coming from, and in crude financial terms, I get it. But MAGA already is accusing the Walmart executives of treason and things. They're very quick to use treason words and things like this and unpatriotic when it's against the Yeti. But you can slap them in the forehead with a baseball bat 3 times a day and they don't get it. Okay, they just don't get it. So I think this Two of Swords is pointing to that. It will divide people quite profoundly. Some will boycott Walmart for one reason, and others will boycott Walmart for another reason, but so many people are still dependent on it. That's why it's so epic. It's totally epic. The days of the huge retailers sitting pretty are at risk, sitting over this wheel of fortune. This is everything's good. I'll just count my billions in the next quarter. Oh, whoops, now we're up against this cretinous, volatile man. What are we going to do? It is a crisis. It's a genuine crisis for big business. But are they really thinking about their consumers? Not a lot. Not a lot. So they don't want to increase the margins greatly, for sure, but it's to keep their policy intact. So this is almost a pact with the American people that Walmart has. I didn't realize it's so massively ingrained. So this is going to affect everyone. I think there will be the beginning of protests here. I think we're going to see a new sort of protest, which isn't along political grounds, although there's lots of political issues to protest. This will be consumer protests. Look, I just hope that there's a lot of bosses in buses going to DC and being visible. This is the Twitterverse, the little birds of the Twitterverse. So I think boycotts are on the horizon sooner rather than later. Okay. Now, I want to deal with some of the legal stuff here. Just while I'm shuffling, bit of good news, always grab it when you can. Romania has voted in a centrist, pro-democracy, pro-EU leader. Why should you notice or care what's happening in Romania? A, we should all be thinking as global citizens, and if we all did a bit more of that, things would be better. However, the main point is this. It's an anti-Putin and an anti-Trump vote. So just as Germany's far right was about to take all before it, and its vote went down, Canada, of course, famously, again, where the far right was in the ascendancy. Australia, we were looking at a conservative government, and then the Trump factor, and now Romania. So it is a thing. It's a global trend away from this vicious, bullying, vacuous behaviour. Absolutely. So a bit of joy in Romania. Okay, so my issue is this. One judge ruled that the Trump regime can deport people under the Alien Enemies Act, and if they're suspected gang members, etc. But they must have 21 days notice for due process, or due process, as you guys say. Remember due process, habeas corpus. Sweet. Well, we'll get to Pam Bondi. So that was one ruling. And then the Supreme Court came in 7-2, no prizes for guessing who were the two, saying, well, yeah, he can deport people, but you can't send them to obvious gulags like El Salvador. Okay. So, where does that leave us? So it's all a bit confusing. That's confusing. However, you needn't be confused because Pam Bondi, however it's pronounced, even though she looks like the wardrobe mistress from an old episode of Baywatch, Attorney General of the United States of America, has actually sent memos to the Department of Justice. And obviously some people are leaking them because there's 115,000 people or some phenomenal number who work for the Department of Justice. And these memos have become more and more and more explicit. And the last round of memos say, you, the Department of Justice, work for the President. She's not only thought it, said it, put it in print. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. I mean, you can't believe that's how brazen it is. So I hope the Supreme Court realise that they are on a very slippery slope trying to support this man. But she's actually done it, said it, that's the end of the independence of the judiciary. I mean, the Constitution is going through the shredder. Where is the groundswell resistance? Am I overstating it? I wish I was. I don't think so. Let me know in the comments. So, with the arrest of the judge and everything else that's happening, I'm going to do a bigger spread than usual on the judicial system. And no, that's too big, the DOJ. Because you can imagine there'd be the new appointees who got their legal licenses in a Cheetos packet, and there'd be the long-term professionals who must be beside themselves. So let's take a deep dive into the DOJ. The DOJ. Weirdly, a lot of queen and female energy going on here. So I think the first card is kind of literal. They've been hamstrung or hogtied or however you want to put it. Like all of a sudden, no one is even pretending this is an independent agency. It's extraordinary. But there are other lawsuits filed on behalf of federal employees because a lot of people are losing their job there for obvious reasons, like I support the law. Oh, go on, go on. Take your lunch, go. So there we go. It can also be the card of sacrifice. So it could be we will see some serious whistleblowers coming forward, knowing that their lives will be made hell. But look, every revolution, it takes those people, this is self-sacrifice, who are prepared to go all the way and be jailed for something they believe in. Oof. Now, this, I think, is Russian interference in the old-fashioned sense. This is driven because the Yeti sees himself as a strong man, and we all know he's a poor man's idea of a rich man, and he's a weak man's idea of a strong man, and so it all goes on. I'm not quite liking this Empress energy, but this is what he's striving for. This is what the parade's about, and so forth. Walking away, I think you will see many of the professionals walking away. You can't blame them individually for walking away, but it's leaving fewer and fewer grown-ups in the room. Here she is. I now rule. Constitution, what constitution? This is Pam Bondi. She's feeling, I think this is all about her actually. She's feeling secure. She's not wrestling with this. This is a woman with no conscience. Queen of Pentacles energy too. Now, normally, lovely card, lots of teachers and nurses get the Queen of Pentacles. But when it's in its shadow, which it is here, with the people we're talking about, it's the materialism and the graft. So I wouldn't say she's a full-blown sociopath. I think she's just a greedy witch. And that's almost uglier. Or at least competitively ugly. Not liking this. We need some more cards for the broader DOJ because that, not surprisingly, went straight to her. So let's pull some of these other cards on the DOJ. Whoosh. What's happening here? Oh, in your comments too. Lots of support for David Hogg in principle, like saying it's time to let the new guard through. That might be because many of you who don't agree with that didn't comment. So I don't know if that's the case, but there were a lot of comments in favor of please let the next lot through. And the old guard can mentor them, but let them go. They've got the energy and the vision and the determination, and they're just more courageous. But I digress. Okay, let's come back because we haven't finished with the DOJ. I'm using the predictions deck now. I've left the spread there. Stay put. Yeah, look at this. This is fascinating. On the walking away, staying put. What does that mean? I think it means that the long-term DOJ professionals are having this dilemma. And some are saying, I just can't deal with this anymore. And others are saying, but if you go, we'll just be left with more of these terrible, terrible, inept creatures. I think this actually embodies the dilemma for them. Now, what is over the Hanged Man card? Rulership handover. This is what has happened. This is what has happened. What's on top of the Queen of Pentacles? An experiment or test. They have done this since the beginning, since 2015. Let's see what we can get away with and see if anyone stops us. Oh, no one stopped us. Let's go further. This is the problem. I know I'm preaching to the choir. Obviously, you are the smart, caring, decent Americans who did not vote for this, who are horrified by every waking moment. But it's like systemic failure. Yeah. Which brings us back to the Dems. They might be fine when everything's going okay or when everything's, let's call it conventionally bad, a global recession or a downturn or, natural disasters or things. Awesome. They're not up to this moment. They can't, the old guard can't conceptualize this. Hakeem Jeffries is a smooth talker, but you don't need a smooth talker in these times. You need someone who can rally every patriotic fiber of people who've been sitting on the sidelines for all this time, of you guys who voted Dems before. His job is to give inspiration to others and express it in an eloquent way where you couldn't possibly turn your back on what this man has to say. Is he doing that? No. So, see about the Dems. Now, moving on here. Oh, rumors, a schism between the Yeti and RFK Jr. Any rifts or any tears in the circus tent are welcome. I'm sure you wouldn't bother taking a side between, right, they're both conspiracy theorists. I mean, not much difference really. But let's see, is there truth in this rumor? Is there truth in this rumor of the rift? Let's see. The Yeti and RFK Jr. Now, ah, I was shuffling the whole time I was raving. I think he'll be the sacrificial lamb. Won't be that long. Moving out. I would say, look at these cards, you know. Things happening very quickly. It's emotional and into the sunset. I think you could count down to RFK. I think despite growing up in such a political dynasty, we say dynasty, he sort of doesn't have a political brain. So the Yeti's people gave him the job because they said, look, he polled at 15% or something. We can bring his people over to our side. And it was quite a crude attempt. And he got sucked in. I mean, this is what happens when people are brought up in ultra wealthy families. I'm not talking middle class comfortable. I'm talking massively famous, uber rich families. They don't spend half an hour in the real world. And they come to points in their lives where this actually shows. I think that's the case for RFK. Now, meanwhile, the Yeti being wheeled around the Middle East. I mean, it sounds like Vance and the Yeti have given up on Russia and Ukraine. So much for the art of the deal. Couldn't handle the heat in the kitchen. They didn't understand it. It was perfectly obvious. And, you know, they're not invested. We'll see, because there's still the minerals deal, which is one of the few deals that actually got named. The irony is deep and abiding because no other deals have been struck. There's been a handshake with Keir Starmer with no detail other than luxury UK vehicles can go to the US without a tariff. Awesome deal. Donald, you're a kingmaker. Awesome. The UK is supposed to take US beef. I doubt they will because it doesn't pass regulations, but we'll see. So no deals have actually been made, right? So what have we got here? So because he's done no trade deals, that's my point. He's making these mythical investment deals. So he goes and sucks up to very dodgy, non-democratic regimes known to be supporters of Hamas and Hezbollah and everything else, and swoons in their company because they've got bigger gold bathrooms than he has, and then announces any figures at all. Just name a number. You know what? He will, watch this space, he'll want to rename the Persian Gulf the Arab Gulf to grovel to them. Yeah. But look, what I want to get on with here, let me have a look. Will they have to bail out some farmers? They won't bail them all out. Can't do it. There's not enough money in the world to make up for these tariffs. But will they do a theatrical sort of, excuse me, a theatrical gesture? And we'll see it on TV that they've saved 12 farms out of, 150,000 or something. Will there be bailouts coming? Will there be bailouts? Bailouts. Bailouts. Well, it's being talked about. I think they are genuinely quite desperate behind the scenes. Yeah. Let me pull one more of these, and then will there be bailouts? Will there be bailouts? Look. Oh, oh, look at the card I pulled. Farming industry. Things are moving very quickly in the wrong direction for the majority of farmers. Regular intrepid viewers will know I'm a farmer's daughter. So I still have some sympathy for farmers individually, but not for the collective that voted for their own demise 3 times. That stretches even my last sentimental fibre. And things are happening really quickly because most farms are in debt all the time. That's why they don't close normally, because they're always in debt. So you're at the mercy of climate and droughts and floods and locust plagues and, in our case, cyclones, your case, hurricanes, etc., plus all the trade stuff. So the Queen of Wands, someone has been in the ear of, I wouldn't even say Trump at the moment. I think this is more likely to be someone speaking to Scott Bessant, who is the most spectacular and inadequate appointment. You know, Kash Patel's bad, Hegseth's bad. How come Hegseth is still there? They're all bad. But this is the global economy that Scott Bessant is messing with, along with Peter Navarro, aka Ron Varro. I digress. Before I finish this on bailouts, I got my update from my superannuation company, which is our 401k. We call it superannuation. You pay in all your working life and la la la. And it was a screed saying because of the Trump tariffs, you know, the investment climate is very insecure, etc., etc. They named the tariffs in every paragraph. I never read these documents. Who would read them? I've got such a pittance in there, it's hardly worth reading. But I was astonished to see they actually called it. Now, if our superannuation mob is doing it, you can be sure they are in other countries as well. This is global. Okay, but we're back to the farmers. No. The King of Pentacles, he wants to be seen as the generous savior, you know, so typical, you know, megalomaniac fashion of make it happen, make all this stuff go away, give them some money. Not to people who are poor in the conventional sense, but farmers again are iconic. He's messing with the icons, okay, which of course will then be bought up by agribusiness and then there'll be no control. Okay, injured industry, we know it, we get it. But I showed you first up. Look, I didn't even know this card was in this deck. Oh, you gotta love that. I'll go out on a high. Okay. Mm. Now, guys, please comments, comments, comments. I love reading your comments. I don't get to reply to every single one, but I try and read them. And you guys are so onto it, you know. So I really appreciate your opinion. And you don't have to agree with me on everything. Don't feel you have to. I mean, stay polite, or Auntie will get cross. Politeness. But just let me know what you're thinking. And I also really appreciate hearing what's happening in your district, your state, your world. Okay, so let me know. Take care. Ciao. Bye for now.